When Ratan Tata turned 75, he decided to hang his boots. Not that he was playing football, but even before he turned 80, he was back at the helm of Tata Sons. And who was out but his replacement, Cyrus Mistry. And it was also out, the rift out in the open within Tata Sons. From Tatas to Ambanis to Apple, the boardroom games, the takeovers, the mergers, the bid for control, they always make for interesting stories. So we have compiled a list of not so sacred games for you to sit back and enjoy.
9th of July was an average Monday morning before the National Company Law Tribunal came out with a decision involving one of India's biggest companies that sells everything from salt to software. The NCLT rejected Cyrus Mistry's petition in which he challenged his removal from the high-profile position of CEO of Tata Sons.
All these allegations, each and every allegation, like every sentence of the conclusion begins with the phrase, "We find no merit." So they have not found any merit in the allegation. The detail you will have to wait for the judgment.
Mistry was ousted in October 2016 after serving as chairman for 4 years. Cyrus Mistry took over the reins of Tata Sons after Ratan Tata announced his retirement. When Ratan Tata had taken over as the CEO of the Tata Sons, many eyes were raised at this decision and his capabilities were doubted. But as soon as he took charge, the Tata Group also took off. Under his reign, Tata Group's revenue grew over 40 times and profit over 50 times. And Tata turned into a truly global company with 65% of its revenues coming from over 100 countries. On his 75th birthday, Tata decided to bid adieu to the Tata Group and resigned from the post of chairman. He named Cyrus Mistry as his successor, whose family owned a sizable chunk in the Tata Sons. 4 years later, Mistry was ousted by the board members of Tata Sons and Ratan Tata was back as the interim chairman. Mistry's sudden exit became the talk of the town after his email was leaked to the media. It revealed a series of allegations against Ratan Tata. Mistry's email said he was pushed into a position of lame duck chairman. A war of words erupted from both sides. While Ratan Tata wrote to his employees, Tata Sons board felt Mistry's removal was absolutely necessary for the future success of the Tata Group. Mistry said Tata never really gave control of the company, as he continued to be the head of Tata Trusts, which owns a 66% stake in the conglomerate.
It has now been 8 weeks, waiting for concrete reasons to be provided by Mr. Ratan Tata for the illegal coup he staged on the 24th of October. Nothing cogent has been forthcoming.
You know, to bring more, to leverage the, to deleverage the debt of the group, reduce the debt so that the group becomes more profitable. The other probably wanted, you know, the group to be far bigger, maybe better revenues and things like that. So I think there was that conflict of opinion.
Mistry and his family eventually took the battle to the court, while Tata Sons slapped a legal notice on him for alleged breach of confidentiality. The 2-year-long battle resulted in disappointment for Mistry when the NCLT declared that his petition against the Tata Sons on his abrupt removal has no merit.
18.4% equity is something that they have held for 5-6 decades, and they that will continue. So they can continue with that holding of that equity, and Supreme Court has and NCLT has actually said that there can be no forceful takeover of that equity. But other than that, really Mistry Group and Mistry family cannot do much about it, because the NCLT judgment is very clear that the Mistry petition has been dismissed. He had said that he was his minority interest had been affected the entire petition has been dismissed.
What remains to be seen is whether this boardroom battle will end here, or will Mistry challenge the NCLT's verdict before the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. Nine years after Steve Jobs started Apple with his friend Steve Wozniak, he quit as the chairman of the company. In the years leading up to his departure, Steve Jobs had been obsessively working on his personal project within the company, the Macintosh. The company's Apple II, designed largely by Steve Wozniak and debuted in 1977, had been hugely profitable, but subsequent systems developed by Jobs, like the expensive $10,000 Lisa, was not as successful.
But we provide them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
The famous 1984 Super Bowl commercial whipped up much anticipation for the Mac, and while it was generally well received, sales quickly cooled.
Like 1984.
Jobs began openly clashing with John Scully, the CEO Jobs himself had lured away from Pepsi just a few years earlier. And in May, Scully stripped Jobs of his managerial duties, giving him a position of chairman. Jobs spent 4 months trying to figure out his next move, and on September 16, 1985, he resigned from Apple Computer.
Steve Jobs at that time had launched that Macintosh series. It had computers, it had printers, it had a whole range of products. Now, Scully had forced him to price that series at about $2495, that computer. He has said that, Scully himself has said in interviews that Steve Jobs wanted it at $1995. And eventually this led to a dispute when Steve Jobs said that that series is not doing well, the company needs money, so why not we discount that product by $500, bring it to what Steve Jobs thought was the right price, and so the dispute began. He lost that dispute in the board because the board backed Scully, and so after that dispute, Steve Jobs decided to leave the company.
5 other employees of Apple quit with Steve Jobs to join him in his next venture, Next Inc. He came back after 12 long years, after he convinced Apple to acquire Next in 1977 and subsequently launched one of the company's most iconic products.
An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Infosys had a significant role.
In the summer of 2014, for the first time, a non-founder and non-promoter was going to take charge of IT giant Infosys, and VISHAL SIKKA was the chosen one.
I welcome Vishal and wish him all the best. Vishal, I can very confidently tell you that you have got a great team here at Infosys, and all of us have complete, full confidence in you. Wish you all the best and good future for Infosys. Thank you.
Sikka's tenure was set for 5 years, but in February 2016, about 2 years after he took charge, the first rift appeared between the co-founders and the Infosys board of directors. It was over a matter of Sikka's pay hike. The board hiked his salary by almost 55%, taking it to $11 million, something the co-founders did not like. The board also okayed a large severance pay of 17.4 crore rupees to its outgoing CFO Rajeev Bansal. The co-founders allegedly were not happy with this and had it stopped by the company. As differences between the SIKKA-led board of directors and the co-founders grew, founding member and mentor Narayana Murthy began publicly criticizing the company for its lapses in corporate governance.
I have always said that the senior management compensation, particularly the CEO compensation, has to be based on three important parameters: fairness with respect to the lowest salary in the organization, transparency, that means every detail of the compensation has to be made known to the shareholders and approved by the shareholders, and accountability, which means a large part of the compensation should be variable and should depend on the performance of the company and the performance of the CEO, and there should be a clawback clause so that if such a performance was obtained using unfair means, that should be taken back.
One of SIKKA's major decisions as the CEO of INFOSYS was to acquire an Israel-based software company, Panaya, for $200 million. However, according to reports, co-founders, including Murthy, were against SIKKA's idea of acquisition business. The constant boardroom battles and differences between the co-founders and SIKKA eventually led to his resignation on August 22, 2017, when SIKKA still had 2 more years to complete his term.
It was difficult to deal with was the sort of the continuous allegations and continuous noise around the same things, the Rajeev Bansal separation and the Panaya this and the David Kennedy that, and over again, repeating the same things, getting them investigated multiple times from different organizations. At some point you realize that this is taking a heavy toll on the organization, it is taking a heavy toll personally, and so I just felt that it is an untenable situation and I don't want to do this anymore. And it is also in the company's interest that with this kind of a change, we can make a fresh beginning and start all over again.
Major issue was about a lot of acquisitions that were done by INFOSYS under Vishal Sikka's management. There was a lot of question mark about those acquisitions. Why do you buy Panaya, for instance, at $200 million? And there was an investigation done on that, and that didn't result in any clarity on this. So Narayana Murthy, who was the chairman of the company and the founder of the company, actually wrote to the board and raised those issues, and eventually it led to the removal of Vishal Sikka.
INFOSYS' shares plummeted to almost 10% the very same day, which meant that Sikka's resignation cost the company a whopping 22,000 crore rupees.
Time for a break now. When we come back, we'll tell you about 2 brothers who fought over their father's legacy. A battle that was fought out in the public, and it also had the Indian government jumping in trying to solve it. So all that when we come back. Time now for some more board games. Have you heard the one about the takeover of Maruti? We'll come to that later. First, let's go to Bombay, as it was known then, Mumbai, where after Dhirubhai Ambani's death, his 2 sons were fighting over the control of who controls what. It was a fight which had the shareholders becoming jittery, thousands of shareholders of Reliance. But not just that, even the Indian government was worried.
Right after the death of one of India's most successful entrepreneurs, Dhirubhai Ambani, his 2 sons locked horns, that too in the public eye. Their father's death sparked a feud for control, which ultimately led to the split of one of India's largest corporate, the Reliance Group. In the year 2004, the bitter war became public when the elder brother and the then chairman of Reliance Group, Mukesh Ambani, admitted in an interview that there were ownership issues within Reliance.
Sometime around 2003, about 18 months after Dhirubhai's death, Anil Ambani was removed from his role in a board coup. And I think that was really the trigger. It was about control of the company. It was about who will run this company. And then there's a famous email that Mukesh Ambani sent out to all the employees of the company saying that it's very clear who has, who the legacy of Dhirubhai belongs to, and that it's the chairman who will decide, and that was essentially him. So I think that may have been the trigger for the split.
In the following year, their mother Kokilaben intervened to solve the matter and arranged a demerger between the two brothers. The Bombay High Court approved the demerger for the company's shareholders, and so did the Bombay and the national stock exchanges. Mukesh Ambani got Reliance Industries and IPCL. Anil Ambani was given control of Reliance Infocom, Reliance Energy and Reliance Capital. However, this dispute didn't end here. In November 2006, Anil Ambani's Reliance Group challenged a gas contract signed by Mukesh's company during the split.
When Reliance was one entity, Reliance had struck gas in KG basin, and that gas, they had said that they are going to be using that gas for the power plants that the group was setting up. So at that point in time, RNRL, which was Reliance Natural Resources, that was the company which was given the task to supply that gas from KG-D6 to the power plants and anywhere else that it wanted. Now they had, within the company, they had agreed on a certain price at that point. That was $2.34 a unit. The dispute was that once the split happened, the Mukesh Ambani side said that while gas belongs to them, and so they will charge the market price. And Anil Ambani said that we have an agreement, and this gas distribution company and power plants was in the Anil group, and they said that we have an agreement and you better supply gas at that price.
As the matter of gas got to the country's top court, the Indian government also intervened, saying that gas is state-owned and can't be claimed by corporate entities. However, the Supreme Court ruling came out in favor of Mukesh Ambani. In the summer of 2010, Kokilaben again brokered a peace agreement between the brothers, and a new non-competent agreement was drafted. The two brothers have grown apart since then. While Mukesh Ambani has bagged the title of India's richest man with a reported net worth of 4,120 crore US dollars, Anil stands way behind with a net worth of 200 crore US dollars. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's son Sanjay had just come back from the UK after an internship with Rolls-Royce and was planning to launch a people's car. His critics found Sanjay inexperienced and unsuitable to implement such an ambitious project. Amongst the few who gave Sanjay the benefit of doubt and actually did visit his factory was senior journalist KHUSHWANT Singh, then editor of the Illustrated Weekly of India.
There were two cars there, and Sanjay asked me to drive one, which I did. And he found my driving too slow. He said, "Tez nahi chala sakte." I said, "All right, I'll try fast." But he was dissatisfied, and he said, "Aap idhar baitho," and he took over the wheel. And he really traveled at great speed over dirt tracks and plowed fields and everything to show me how good it was.
In 1971, a new company was set up with Sanjay as the first managing director and was named MURTHY Udyog Limited on the name of Hindu god Hanuman. The purpose of the company was to design, manufacture and assemble a small car for the masses. Sanjay held talks with various firms including Peugeot, Volkswagen and Suzuki of Japan. Nothing much happened till 1975 when Sanjay got busy enforcing the state of emergency that his mother had foisted on India. In 1977, by the time emergency was lifted and for the first time a non-Congress government came to power, there surfaced accusations of corruption and nepotism. Maruti went into liquidation and Sanjay Gandhi's dream couldn't see the light of day. In 1980, Sanjay died when the small aircraft he was flying crashed. It was a year after Sanjay's death that talks with potential partner Suzuki of Japan materialized. Foreign partner Suzuki eventually acquired a major stake in the company after much negotiations with the Indian government.
Maruti knew how to run a car, manufacture a car, they knew how to research a car. Many of the components, even at that time when the government owned a majority in Maruti, were actually imported directly from Japan. So Suzuki used to supply some of the components, especially transmission, some of the most critical components, gearbox, were all supplied by Suzuki. Now imagine a situation where government wanted to run it and Suzuki wouldn't want to supply those components. So that was a very good decision. I think it couldn't have been a better decision.
The economic liberalization of the early 90s benefited Suzuki even further, as it upped its stake to 50%, but it was still not the controlling partner. In 2002, after a labour strike within the company following the NDA government's failed disinvestment plans, Maruti Suzuki was officially privatized and Suzuki Motor Company of Japan took a majority ownership with 54.2% stake. At present, Suzuki owns 56.21% share in the company that is called Maruti Suzuki India Limited and is the biggest car maker in India.